Awesome. We're now streaming on Facebook. It throws me off every time. Sometimes it takes a long time. Other times it's really quick. Anyways, excellent. Thank you everyone for joining us once again on our conversation series. So to give everyone some background, this is hosted by Business and Professional Women of Greater Moncton. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Amanda Devison. I am the first Vice President of Business and Professional Women of Greater Moncton. And we've been hosting these conversations with some amazing women in the Greater Moncton area. Just to kind of, as a value add, and there's so many things we want to talk about and so many different topics out there. And this has been a great way for us to continue to connect and communicate with a variety of people. So as BPW, our goal is to help women connect, learn, grow, and advocate. And so a lot of our conversations are really surrounding those topics. So I'm extremely excited to have Angela Harris with me tonight. So I'm sure anyone in the Greater Moncton area knows who you are, through work of art or otherwise. Or stalking you online.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Sorry, it was telling me I was signed out. I know. I feel like somebody signed in on me. Anyways, we'll ignore that. Everything still seems to be. Hold on, working here. Just want to make sure we're still here.
Mine still says live on Facebook.
Okay, good. All right. So sorry for technology is awesome when it works. So.
Yes.
Anyway,
it's more entertaining when it doesn't.
It's true. People seem to enjoy the blips because then they feel like they're not alone, or at least I feel like I'm not alone. Anyway, refocus for a minute. We brought Angela in because it's kind of that time of year where everybody is thinking about their goals and their vision and how they want to kind of frame everything up for the new year. And that's really kind of one of the things I think you're very strong at, is helping people kind of cut through the noise and really get down to the heart of things and understand how to focus those. So I'm gonna give you guys a bio of Angela for anyone who's not familiar with her, and then we'll kind of just chit chat about a variety of different things. So Angela Harris, connector, relationship builder, coach, and badass, which, side note, I would like to add to my own bio / business card, whatever.
Do that.
I think that's really good. Angela Harris is the award-winning founder of Work of Heart, a business and movement created to empower and inspire people to live their best life. Angela helps heart-centered high achievers get clarity to achieve their goals. Angela started her career as an Atlantic trainer in the Canadian Football League because of her passion for sports and her dedication to helping people. But after 17 years working corporate sales and marketing, Angela became a full-time entrepreneur in April 2018. As an athlete, rugby, and sports coach for the past 30 years, Angela has had the privilege to impact hundreds of athletes in pursuing their goals and dreams. Her mission in life is to simply make a difference every day. When she isn't helping others, you can find Angela taking time for herself, working on her business, or running the roads with her busy young sports family. So everybody, please welcome Angela. It's our privilege to have you here. And thank you, Angela, for taking the time to join us in our conversation series.
Awesome. I'm excited to chat with you.
Yes. So visions, intentions. So I guess kind of how do you want to lay the foundation for our conversation this evening? Why are these things important to you? Why do you think they're important to other people? Kind of that vibe.
I think, when we were talking about, topics and what to talk about and the timing of things, this is the time of year really when people are diving into, or I'll use that terrible word, but resolutions.
Mm-hmm.
The age old January is here. What are your New Year's resolutions? And so I wouldn't say that I'm against them. It's not something that I use.
Okay.
But goal setting is obviously my jam. It's what I do. Fun fact, even the word goals, or if you asked me what my goals were, I would freak out. And yet I had them, but if I had to start talking about them, I would freak out. But so I feel like a lot of people talk about resolutions. A lot of people talk about goals at this time of year. There's millions of different hits if you Google goals. So I was like, you know what, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm happy to chat about that any day of the week. But I felt like for right now, for me, what it all starts with is vision. And so I really want to encourage people to be thinking about where they're trying to get to, because if you're not clear on what you want and where you're trying to go, it doesn't mean you're not going to get there, but it will be a hell of a lot harder to, to make it happen if you don't have, a clear vision on where you're going. So
So when it comes to those kind of things, are you like a set the big broad picture and then make it bite-sized chunks, or kind of what do you recommend for people who have those big, bold goals?
So I will say the same thing about, vision, intention, any of it. There's no rules, right?
Mhm,
Well, and that's why I call myself a badass, because of course there's rules and there's like legal things. But, when it comes to it, people get so hung up on the right way to do things, right?
mhm,
And the proper tool, and what's popular, and what are you doing, and what's happening over here. And so the reality is it's super important to figure out what works best for you. And so when I am looking at my vision, yes, I'm looking at like the big picture. I'm looking at, where I want to go. But sometimes I'm like, okay, what do I want to do today? What's my vision
mm,
for today? And so,
mhm,
like I said, I think it's important to have, that big picture vision of like where you're trying to go in life. And I'm not saying like, it needs to be a popsicle stand on a beach in Bali, but if that's what you want to do, then you should make it happen, right? But yeah, so but like I said, I think January is the perfect time of year to be thinking about your vision, and to be thinking about, what you want your life to look like, right?
mhm,
And when I say look like, it can be the physical things, it can be the intricate details, like you were saying, or it can be the big picture, like how do you want to feel? Like, are you looking for like time freedom? Are you looking for financial freedom? And
mhm,
really, let yourself dream big, because one of the things that I see most often, in my coaching business and in most of the events that I've done, is that when you start talking to people about that, they like, they start to get overwhelmed, and they start to shut down, and they start to like worry about the details, and they don't let themselves dream. They don't let themselves have fun with
mm,
it. Right. And so they're
mhm,
like, well, that wouldn't work. Like, I couldn't go to Bali because, my family's here. And so like they'll talk
right.
themselves out of it. Or, it could be they want to have they want to live on the ocean someday. And you start asking them questions. Well, what would that look like? And what would, and they're like, well, I don't know. Well, I don't have the money for that. Well, how much money do you think it would cost? Like,
Yeah.
when you start letting yourself kind of go down that path and not worry as much about, how it's going to happen, or like the details, it allows you to realize what you really want, and sometimes more importantly, what you really don't want. So
Mm,
that can be
mhm.
a big lesson, for people as well.
Yeah, I think so, because sometimes you think you want something, but then when you start kind of going down that road, if you do start doing, whether it's bite-sized chunks or whatever it is that you start looking into, you could very quickly realize,
Yeah.
maybe that isn't something I want. So I
Or you
do think
get
that's,
what you thought you wanted, and you're
yeah,
like,
and you have
oh,
buyer's remorse.
yeah. And you're like, this is not how I thought it was going to be. This is not,
Hmm.
which is fine. It's not, uh,
No, it's
it
not a big deal.
no. And any successful person, anybody, will tell you that failure and lessons are just as important as like the wins. So
Hmm. And I
yeah.
think that's just look at it like an opportunity and as a lesson, right? So it's like you explored that and figured out it wasn't for you. Like that's just as valuable as if it was something you found fulfilling, right? Because
Yeah.
now you're not going to spend all that time, in that direction anymore. So those things can be important as well. So just a side note for anyone watching, feel free to post comments and ask questions. We'll check every once in a while to see what's going on there for everybody. Um, and kind of going back to your comment about there are no rules and like it doesn't have to look like everyone else. I completely relate to that. So because everybody, some people like are really into planners and stuff, and I really want to be like I so want to be a planner person. Like I'm very organized. I have color coded Outlook bookings. Like I do all that stuff, but
Yeah.
I find like I have like 8,000 planners spread out all over
Yeah.
the place because I'm like, this one is my health and fitness planner,
This
and
is going
this
to
one
be
is
it.
my
Yeah.
dream planner, and this one is my work planner. And I would have all of them, and then they just
Yeah.
get like 3 pages,
Well,
and then I
and that's
never
the
do
thing.
anything.
That's the thing, even individually. So I think it's important to recognize what tools work for you, right?
Hmm.
So whether it's for like vision, goal setting, time management, energy management. So it's figuring out what works for you, but what works for you one day might not work for you the next day. And
Hmm.
so today I might be all about the paper planner and
Yeah.
all about like having the structure and it looking like this and like having this fancy, habit tracker and, all of those things like today really excite me. But tomorrow, I might be like, no, this is not, it's not where my headspace is. Like maybe I
Mhm.
need something digital. Maybe I don't need anything. Maybe I need a sticky note, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and I think it's, that's why a lot of times I talk about having a toolbox. So it's like,
Mm,
it's trying out different things. It doesn't mean just because it doesn't work once or doesn't work today for you doesn't mean in future that you won't be about that. Like I see
yeah.
people with these fancy like bullet journals and
Yes, I looked that
I'm
up the other
like,
day because I was like, what is this? What is this
"Right?
madness? And then I looked up this video on YouTube and I was like, that is so fascinating. And I was like, I wish I could be that person. And then I saw a shout out to Dawn Arnold, mayor of
Yes,
Moncton. I saw her post about her
yes,
notebook and I was super jealous about that too because I was like, that's so cool. And look at all that's awesome. And I wish I could do that. And I have so many that I just don't do. And for me at this particular point,
mm,
I am like, I need it like visually on a wall. So I went to
yeah,
like Staples and they have dry erase where the bristle board is, like the poster board. You can
I
actually buy
yes.
dry erase ones, which is so
I know,
cool.
5
Because I was
bucks.
looking, it's like they're amazing. Because I was
Yeah,
looking around and like, they're trying to, there's the branded ones that people try
yeah,
to and it's like $50 for this giant. I don't need a giant thing. I was like, I just need a
yeah,
anyway. So I was in the aisle with the bristleboard poster board, and there, sure enough, on the bottom was
yeah,
dry erase something for like $3. The other one was like $50, and this was
yeah.
like $3. I was like, this is amazing, and it's double sided. And so I
I
was like,
know,
put that up on the wall, and now so I
right?
took all of my journals
Yes,
and planners and
yeah,
flipped through and wrote all my stuff out. So now I can kind of, it's there, it's in my
yeah,
face. It's a good reminder because otherwise I forget. And then 6 months later, I look in that and be like, oh, right, I meant to do
right. I was
XYZ.
gonna do that thing.
And
Yeah,
I know some people use the notes on their phone, which
yeah,
that's just not intuitive for me. Like I'll do
yeah,
that for like grocery lists or whatever, but goals and stuff, it's just it doesn't give me the vibe. Some people it's awesome,
yeah,
so that's another thing to think about. You could always put it
yeah.
on there. Some people do the background on their phone as a
There's
reminder, whether it's their word of the year or whatever it is.
So
Like,
that's one of the things. So I want to talk about that. I do think like just kind of finishing up on the vision side of it.
mhm.
Like I said, there's no rules, there's no ways, right or wrong ways to do it. But I would say, Google it or, check out events. I know BPW has an event. Is it tomorrow or
It's
this week?
tomorrow evening is our
Yeah.
vision board. Yeah. Hmm.
And you know what? Sometimes it's great to like to see what other people do and to like get ideas. And maybe it's exactly what you need, or maybe it'll give you inspiration or, an idea for like what you want things to look like. But like hands down, vision boards, whether it's actually like with physical things like magazines, or you can do it digitally, you can do it on Canva, you can do it
Hmm.
on Pinterest.
Hmm.
Those are an incredible way to get clear on your vision. So
Yeah, and I love that. And our vision board workshop's always very, very popular. This year, obviously, we're pivoting for it to be virtual.
yes,
We still have a good number of people, but anybody watching live today, it's tomorrow. You can see the event on our Facebook page. If you're a member, it's free. If you're a non-member, it's only $20. You can get together virtually, grab a glass of wine, grab your old magazines, or same thing, like you said, sign up for Canva, do it digitally. I always find it's fun because it can kind of give you that broad picture, and
yeah,
then also it's really cool to like look back at it at the end of the year, and
yeah.
there's always
I know,
something
and
you
you're
put
like,
on there.
"Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I got that.
You're like,
I
oh my God, I
did,"
did that
right?
thing.
Yeah,
Right. So it just,
yeah,
because at the time you're focused. So I think it kind of plants a bit of a seed.
yeah,
So yes, anybody that's interested in doing that, please
yeah,
join us. You can
yes.
still do that. You can find it on Eventbrite.
Awesome. But
So
yes, I
that's
want
kind of
to talk.
vision and
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
Okay. I was like, okay, so let's talk
Yes.
about intentions. So one of the things, so the last couple of weeks on my social media, I've been talking about my intention for 2021. Some people call it their word of the year. some everybody has a different term for it, and I wish that I could remember how long I've been doing it and who I should credit it to. I feel it's like Ali Edwards or Lisa Leonard or one of
Mhm.
those people. But you know, over the years, for me, it's really progressed into something that is quite important to me, and it's a bit of a running joke with people that know me. Like I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, I really got to think about this. Be careful what you wish for, because there's been years where I choose something, and
Mhm.
like one year was strength. And in my mind, I was like,
Right.
I was like, okay, it's going to be this, it's going to look like this. And
The universe felt it was
the
something completely
universe felt
different.
it was something totally different. And I sure got strong that year. It was a character builder. It was like all kinds of different challenges. And but yeah, so for me it and again, there's no rules around this. Like in the work of heart community anyway, there's people will use a single word, they'll use a sentence. There's all kinds of different meanings to it, but I do encourage people to try it out, and
Mhm.
to put it somewhere that you'll see it. And again, full transparency, I last year I forget how many months went by, and then I was like, what is my word? I'm like, I don't even remember right now. So I went back and I was like, oh, and again, same thing. I was like, okay, universe, like got
Mhm.
you. But yeah, so I do encourage people to try things out. There's same thing on like Pinterest, or if you Google it, like word of the year, there's like hundreds of thousands of
Mhm.
ideas that you can choose from. And really what you want to do is you want to choose something that is going to be meaningful for you, that is going to help you like work towards your vision and work towards your goals, and it's going to remind you
Yeah.
every single time that you look at it, like what feeling you're after,
Mhm.
what you're trying to accomplish. And so for me, I picked ease this year, which isn't as, like, I'll say, powerful
Mhm.
as most of my other words have been over the years. But to be quite honest, it's more powerful for me, like where I am in my life and in my business and things that are happening for me, to like really slow down and to like, pick the easy option, which I'm like, even saying it, I'm like kind of cringing. I'm like,
You're like, "Oh
I'm
god."
the person who picks the easy option. I'm like, I got this,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah,
but
you're like with the machete, like chopping a new path.
right, I'm like, I got it. Come with me, everybody. So yeah, but I do think that it's a powerful tool and way to kind of go through your year and your weeks and your day. So
Yeah, and so I do want to say too, big shout out to the Work of Heart community. There's always great conversation going on in there. Anyone
yeah.
who's listening that's not familiar, feel free to check it out. You can find it on Facebook. Um, Also, same thing. I did try it this year. I had never done the word of the year
Mhm.
before, and so you had posted the template to say like put
Yes.
your word. And so mine is unsubscribe, and I mean it from
Yes.
like.
I loved that one. I loved it.
Yeah, so for me, it's like, and that means not just newsletters. I do have too many of those. So I
Yeah.
am I am physically unsubscribing email things, but also I think I'm signed up for too many
Mhm.
things in
Yeah.
life,
Yeah.
and work,
And sometimes too many people.
and too many. So I need to unsubscribe for my own sanity, especially with everything that's gone on in the last year with COVID. You really start to realize kind of that delicate balance in the mental health world,
Yeah.
and sometimes the things you can do in normal times
Yeah.
are too much in COVID times, and so and that's okay. So I
And I
need to
think
not be
you
the one that wants to do everything for
yeah.
everyone.
I think that, when I saw your word, which like I got so excited, can I just say, like, I know I didn't ever feel this excited about some things, but the thing that stood out for me was, I think people need to realize that like full permission to just do what's best for you.
Hmm.
Right? Like, and it doesn't mean that you're being selfish. It doesn't mean you're being greedy. It doesn't mean, it's realizing that, when you choose what's best for you, it's best for everyone. So
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to take a look to see if we have any questions, because I think
Sure.
this really gives us a good point. If once we could, if there are questions, we'll answer those first.
Yeah.
But to pivot into the energy management, because I
Yes.
know once you posted about that, there's all kinds of interest, and
Yeah.
I'm personally very interested in
Mm,
figuring that part out. So let me just scroll first, see. Okay, no, it looks like we're good.
mhm.
Awesome. So, energy management. So, like
Yes.
I said earlier, queen of color coded outlook, which is time management.
Hmm.
Not so good, not so good. Hence the word unsubscribe
Right.
for the energy management stuff. So,
Yeah.
very interested in hearing about what does
So
it mean to you? What are the
yeah.
tools? What does it look like? How can I do it? How do I get good at it tomorrow?
Yes. And so where this came from, and I'll say that, again, disclaimer, this is Angela Harris's version of energy management. So, there's all kinds of definitions to things. But, where this came from was over the last couple of years, just in my own journey, like building my business, like working with clients, the work of heart community, and just kind of seeing, the recurring themes that happen and in conversations, and, the lessons that come up for myself and things that I'm coaching people on. One of the things that I had to kind of learn the hard way, was the importance of rest, and the
Mm,
importance of slowing down, and the importance of, giving myself space and giving myself grace when you're exhausted, right?
mm,
Like, I've gone through burnout a couple of times, and like both as an employee and as an entrepreneur.
mhm.
And, the I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate thing is, like, when you are self-employed and you go through burnout, you realize that you're the problem, right?
Right,
It's
right.
not,
You can't
it's
blame it
like
on
I can't blame it on my
yeah,
boss because I'm the
you're
boss,
the
right? And people would say take some time off or slow down or whatever. And I'm in this like this motion of like, well, I got to do this and I have to do that, and in this, this busyness, right? And
Mhm,
so for
mhm,
me, all of these lessons kind of, they, as much as I hate to learn them sometimes, like they do, I'm grateful for them. And so, I've always been a geek with time management tools.
mm,
And when I was in the corporate world, I would want all the things, like all the tools, and I'd want to find the best way to do things and to be the most productive and to like
mhm,
be the most efficient. But the reality is we all have the same amount of hours. We
mhm,
all have access to the tools. But what's different is each of us and our circumstances, whether it's like in work or it's, with your life or your family or whatever. And so, to kind of explain the difference to people, and again, this is Angela's version of it. Time management to me is really kind of that planning and organization and the things that you're doing to like work through your to-do list or your goals or
mhm.
whatever. But energy management is really about you, right? It's really not you, but like
Oh,
me.
me, just me.
You. It is about you. Yeah, you, me. But it's about like looking at yourself, right?
Mhm,
And it's about the feelings that you have. It's about how you take care of yourself, which like I'm laughing. And again, I don't want to be a total hypocrite because there are times when I'm really, really mindful and intentional about this, about
mhm,
taking care of myself. And other times where I'm like, no, I'm too busy. I need to do
mhm,
things like I can't go to bed early. I can't, so but yeah, so it's taking care of yourself. And when I'm talking, I'm talking about, water, I'm talking about nutrition, I'm talking about sleep, I'm talking about like taking care of your health, right?
mhm,
Because those things impact your energy, which then impact how, productive, if you want to go to the productive, like into the time management, it impacts your ability to do things,
mhm,
right? So I feel like, that's those are the lessons for me. So like I said, it's kind of the feelings, it's like the, you know for me, when I talk about energy, and this is what I was saying is interesting, I posted about it yesterday in the Work of Heart Facebook community, and it was interesting how people responded. because when you use the word energy, everyone kind of has a different take on it. So
Mhm.
really there's like physical energy, there's mental energy, there is spiritual energy, and
Mhm.
they're all, again, it's all part of us, and it's all part of how you show up. So
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I think so. The part of it too goes back to being mindful, because one of the comments was Natalie Davison had said there's some things that kind of that you do that fill you up and other things that drain you. And
Yes.
so, and I think that's important, because no matter what you do, whether you're an entrepreneur or you are employed for someone, there
Yeah.
are things you have to do
Yeah.
in order to move forward that are going to drain you, that maybe you don't like. Maybe you don't like bookkeeping. Maybe you
Yeah.
don't like business development, whatever it is,
Yeah.
but you have to do it to kind of keep things moving, right? So, but I think if you notice that, then perhaps you make sure that all you don't schedule all the things that you hate or that
Mhm.
drain you on the same
Yeah.
day.
Exactly. And so that's one of the, if I had the opportunity to give people advice on energy management, I think it's definitely awareness, right? Like,
Hmm.
be aware of what drains you and what fills you up, and
Hmm.
be aware of, different times of the day that, some people are more productive in the morning, some people are more productive in the evening. And again, you'll see this like, this almost like online battle of people, like, if you don't win the day, then you like, or win the
Why'd
morning.
you even get out of bed?
I think it's win the morning. I think that's like, anyway. But for me, and again, like, maybe I'll change, but like right now, the idea of like getting up at 5 a.m. to
Mm,
do things, I'm like, that's not me. I'm a night owl. And
yeah,
so, it's figuring out what works best for you. And so
yeah.
I'm not gonna go and try and do the most important task of my day at 5 a.m. Right.
Hmm.
I'm also not going to do it at 11 p.m. because
Hmm.
I'm going to be tired. Right. And I also think it's important to be aware of the energy of the people around you. So,
Yes.
it could be, and I've seen this, I was surprised over the last year to see this happen, because I thought it was mostly for me, the impact of people's energy. I thought it was just like in person. And then over the last year, obviously we're all online more, and we're in like Zoom meetings, we're
Hmm.
in like groups of people online. And it was interesting to see, how I would feel after a Zoom call, or after like talking to certain
Hmm.
people, or after doing certain things. And so, like I said, one word of advice is just like start to be mindful of it, be aware of these things. And, I guess the other piece of advice on it is kind of embrace what works for you.
Hmm.
So again, if this person is like a morning person, and they're doing all these things and that works for them, great. It doesn't
Hmm.
mean that what you're doing is wrong.
Right.
But if you're not feeling good about it,
Yeah.
then you want to do something about it.
Yeah, so it's kind of that expression people say too, is like eat the frog, right? Like, so they say whatever you're dreading the most in your day, do it early, because if you're going to spend the whole day thinking about it and stressing about it and getting cranky about it, get it
Yeah.
over with early. But like you said, if your peak performing time is 11 a.m. or 2
Yes.
p.m., well then you should, whatever the most important critical thing is, that's when you want to be doing those
Yeah.
things. Just
Yeah.
because people come up with all these nifty little sayings doesn't mean that that is a universal thing that's going to work for everybody. and
Exactly.
and I think too, it also goes back to like I was saying earlier, that because we're in these unique times, what you may have been able to do in a day before may not be what you can do in a day now, because psychologically this whole pandemic thing is draining everybody, and the mental health thing is real,
Yeah.
for sure. And I'm someone that's an introvert, and like I love my people. I don't miss all people, I miss my people.
Yeah.
But you know
I agree with you.
right, but still I didn't realize how much of an impact that was, to
Yes.
not even see my people. And the only time I see people is when it's people in like going to the grocery store, where there's all the people that I'd rather not be involved in. That's kind of the situation I'm trying to avoid.
Right.
But I don't get to see my people because of the way, depending on what color we're in at any given moment.
Yes.
But So, and it's, you kind of, well, I personally underestimated the amount of comfort and energy and things I got from that. And I miss hugging people, and do you know what I mean? So those kind of things. So that's constantly running in your brain, whether you're thinking about it or not. So
Just it.
there's energy drain out going out the back. So I
Yeah.
might have been able to do 4 client meetings in a day before, and now I can do 2.
Well,
Well, right?
and this is, you know, one of the things that I talk about a lot is like our capacity, right? And
Hmm.
it's like our energy capacity, it's our like it's our mental health capacity. And, you know, I feel like, you know, one of the things I've said this like so many times, but like comparison is the thief of joy,
Hmm.
right? Because we're all online. We kind of, you know, and it's not like, I shouldn't say it's not like we can't just like not be on social media and we can't like we can disconnect from people, because especially right now it's
Hmm.
hard for us. Like then a lot of us would have no connection to people.
Right.
Like I don't have a workplace that I go into, right? So I feel like it's really hard right now to not be looking around and seeing what other people are doing. And I remember in the early days of the pandemic when, you know, some people are like painting their house and like ripping apart their backyard, and they're baking bread and they're doing these things, and like, and some days that was me.
Yep.
I haven't painted anything, but there was days where I was like super productive, and I was like, I was, you know, productive, like I felt like I was doing a lot and I felt good about it. And
Hmm.
then other days I'd be watching people and I'm like, how are they doing that? Like, I just
Hmm.
want to do nothing. But you know what? That's the mental health part of it. And it's
Yes.
the capacity part of it. And it's like realizing that there's different stages, there's different phases in your life. And
Hmm.
especially, you know, especially as women, there's that
Yes.
whole other fun part of like hormones and cycles and, you know, that we have to contend with. And I
Hmm.
think the more that you start to recognize, you know, where, you know, when you're strongest and what, like I said earlier, what drains you and what fills you up with your energy, and you embrace where you're at today,
Hmm.
the easier that it is to manage things.
Yeah, and I think too, going back to what you're talking about being online too, though, is kind of, there's the joke of 2020 being the year of the unfollow. So you stayed
Mm,
friends with people, but you unfollowed them for whatever,
this,
whatever they were throwing out there that just was not good. And so
well,
embrace
yeah,
unfollow, embrace the mute, the
and
snooze,
subscribe. Yeah,
unfollow, unsubscribe, do all that fun stuff. Uh,
yep.
Reorganize. Like I started even on Instagram, I started unfollowing certain accounts and following
Yeah,
new
if it
ones
doesn't make
once
you
the
feel
gate.
good.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
you got to switch it up and be okay with it. And there's nothing wrong with that. And
I think it's funny though, just, you know, talking about that for a second. It's interesting to me. I would have thought that people, you know, we would have kind of picked up on people's energy and really kind of gotten a better sense of people in person, right? Like,
yes, yeah.
you know,
Hmm.
and it's interesting to me how much more, you know, obvious things became online with people, right? Like things that they said. I don't know, maybe people got unfiltered, or maybe they're,
Yeah.
you know, who knows. But yeah, it's interesting. And I think, you know, especially nowadays, especially on social media, it's like it's pretty easy to unfollow.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to be like, you know what, I'm gonna snooze you for a little while because
Because I
I
can't deal.
and it's
Not
not
today.
it's not necessarily personal.
Yeah.
It's more so, you know, like I said earlier, it's what's best for me. I'm
Hmm.
like, this is not making me feel good. I don't want to look at, you know, I don't want to look at this, you know, whatever this
Whatever. Yeah.
person's perfect Instagram feed and beat myself up because mine's not perfect. And then ironically, I'm like, that's not my jam anyway.
Hmm.
Perfection
Hmm.
is not, you know, it's not what I'm about. So, you know, but like I said, we don't have to have a reason to do what we do.
No, and the same thing. There's been so many crazy explosive topics and things
Yeah.
that have gone on and continue to go on.
Yes.
And, I would see people post whatever, and then I would proceed to have like 8 conversations with them in my head. Like I'd be brushing my teeth, being angry and being like, "Rah, rah,
Right.
rah, rah, rah." Like, but I just had to let it go. I'd
Yeah.
unfollow because at the end of the day, a lot of them to be fair, they're adults, they're cooked. That's the way it is. Me getting into an online argument with them
Yeah.
is going to do nothing but irritate me. And I have to be okay with that. Some people are at where they're at and I'm where I'm at.
Yeah.
And same thing, if somebody came to me with a completely opposite position of something I value and believe in,
Yeah.
they're going to be hard pressed to convince me
Right.
that they're
And
right and I'm wrong.
that's the reality is like you don't need to understand why they say or do what they do, and they don't need to understand why you say or do what you do.
Mhm.
That's the way that things are. And like I said, on social media especially, it's like, okay, I think we're good. Like you do you and I'll do me.
And I'll do me, and it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
think too, another thing that people can do to kind of think about their energy management is um, think about, again, kind of your routine tasks,
yeah.
perhaps, of your job or your day.
Yeah.
And if you find that, or if you're in a period too of where there's more draining than fulfilling,
Yes.
is there a hobby?
Yeah.
Is there something you can do? So, for example, for me, I'm a commercial banker. I do a ton of financial analysis every day. It's very draining, uses one side of my brain, right?
Right.
Extensively one side of my brain
Right.
over and over and over. So
Yeah.
I, like do creative things to
Yes.
balance myself out, and it helps me from getting drained or too cranky or whatever. Because so whether it's before COVID, it was like, the paint nights. I would go to those
Yes.
every once in a while.
Yeah.
Or now I've taken up photography. So it's like the things that push me to be more creative
Yes.
help balance out the demands of my everyday role that require me to be very analytical. So sometimes it's kind of taking back a step back in
Well, and I
that
think
manner
it's like,
too.
yeah, I think it's allowing yourself and, digging into the things that, like I said earlier, that fill you up, right?
Hmm.
And figuring it out. I know, I'm a huge advocate for creativity. Some people like freak out when I use the word creativity, but, it can mean all kinds of different things, right, for people. But, it's important to balance those things out. And maybe if you're doing work that's not feeling great, but it's something that you have to do,
Hmm.
then it's like, doing it in time chunks, like giving yourself rewards for it. Maybe if you are, someone who's into, painting or photography or whatever, you do an hour of work and then, take 10 minutes and do, especially if you're at home or on like working online, take 10 minutes to do what fills you up and then
Hmm.
go back at it. Right. I think like, again, being aware of your energy and being aware of, how things are helping or hindering is super important.
Yeah, I think that, it's just a way to kind of incorporate. And also I think too, though, again, with everybody, be mindful of how you react when you're doing something that you think is going to fill you up.
Yeah.
So for example, when I would go to the paint nights, it's just supposed to be fun, creative, something
Right.
to do. The number of women just like trashing their painting and hating on
Oh
themselves. And I'd
no.
want to just shake them and be like, do you do this for a living?
I know.
No, then it's
And that's
okay to not be good at it. Like,
no. I think it's like it's so hard for especially that like achiever personality, right?
yep.
I think, a lot of us expect that we're going to be, the best at something or we're going to do whatever. And so it's hard to shift to that, right?
Hmm.
But listen, I think it's necessary. And I think, one of the things I started doing last year, I'll call it like intentional laziness, or I'll be like,
Right.
and for me, like lazy was like, I was like, I'm not lazy. I'm not going to lay on the couch. I'm not going to whatever. But,
Hmm. Hmm.
when I set out, and this is me energy management, realizing when I'm at max capacity, saying, you know what, I need to slow down. So is it, watching a television show because I don't watch television a lot? Is it meditating? Is it, what's going to disrupt how I'm feeling and help me feel better?
Yeah.
So, and I think it's like digging into things and trying different things out because you might be surprised. You might be like,
Hmm.
okay, I love painting. Or if you do painting and it stresses you out and you're like, I'm terrible at this and this is, then don't do it anymore.
Don't do it. Yeah, exactly.
Like, all
Try
the
something else.
Yeah, try something else.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think too, like same thing. So for me, the term I always use is I'm an insecure overachiever. And so
Ooh,
it's like I want to do everything and I want to be awesome at it. But then once, if I do something awesome, like I'm always just
yeah,
like I downplay how awesome it is. So
right.
and there's a lot
Yeah,
of people, women are notorious for that in
yes,
general.
yes,
No matter what you do, it's just a thing, right? So so yeah, but I think yeah, like try stuff out. It's okay to not be great at things. Like same thing, like or when like the
it's
axe
fun.
throwing lounge opened up and people were like, well, I'm not. They'll just go with their friends, but they don't want to throw an axe. And I'm like, listen,
Yeah,
the worst thing that's going to happen is it's going to land on the floor, like
right.
because you don't throw axes every day. You're not Paul
Yeah,
Bunyan. It's not going to just if you don't get it in the bullseye, it's all right. But maybe you'll
yeah,
find this super fun, and if
right.
you don't, then just don't do it again. But like, just
Exactly.
throw a couple axes, see what it feels like. Like
Try
just
things out.
people seem to, as they get older,
Yes.
like lose the sense of enjoying fun.
Right. Adventure. And it's, I think people like to have a reason for doing things. And
Hmm.
it's hard and it's not all people, some people
No.
are great at that aspect and like have found the right balance for them, right? But I think, especially when we get caught up in the busyness and we have so much going on and so much to do, I think you're right. People have a tendency to not want to try something new or to like
Hmm.
be like, oh well, this is, it's difficult or it's this or what, they'll talk themselves out of it.
Yeah.
But if you see something that, and I call that, I did a talk on that for BPW before, but it's inspired action is what I call it. So
Hmm.
if you see something and if you've heard us talking about axe throwing and you're like, oh, what is that? Like I'm curious about that. I want to do it. Just go do it. Like try
Yeah.
it. Right?
Yeah.
Google it, talk to somebody, ask a question. Or if it's,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know, I always come up with random things that are actually I'm like macrame or whatever knitting. I'm like, these are not
Yes.
actually things that Angela is gonna do, but I'm like, maybe I should.
Yeah,
So
like
yeah.
I just think that's the key word is curious and just stay
Yes.
curious and just try it out. Like if you were a kid and someone's like, "Do you want to try this?" 90 unless it's some weird food, you're probably going to say, "Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
cool."
Yeah.
You know, but it seems like, and whether that's because people start identifying more with their role or their persona or whatever it is, they kind of feel like that doesn't match up. But like throw all that out. That's all noise.
Yes.
It's you need to try things and remain curious and see if it could be fun. Worst case scenario, you don't like it and you never do it again.
Well, and it's funny. I had someone, like I said, I had a lot of people message me about the energy management, and one of the things that came up this morning was I was talking about pace, right? Because we have a tendency, especially if like things are really busy or we have we have a lot of things going on, we feel like we got to keep going fast, right? We got to keep
Hmm.
going at that same pace, and then all of a sudden it gets disrupted. It's like, okay, well, what do I want to do now? Like, well, I can't, I can't slow down that much. I can't rest. I can't have time for fun because I'm so busy. Right.
Hmm.
But the reality is like, with anything, you can't go through life at a sprint.
No,
Right. There's a time to, I was like, did I say that right? It's like, maybe you could go through life at a sprint, but you know what I mean? Right. Like
you
there's,
won't get very far though. I don't think. I think
right.
you're going to burn out pretty fast.
Right. So I think there's times where you need to like, slow it down. You need to take rest. You need to like recover. You need to, and then back to that mental health aspect. There's times where you just need to embrace like, you're not feeling okay. You need to
Hmm.
take a day off. You need a mental health day, whatever. Somebody else asked the question today, like, what do you do when, you're at max capacity but you still have things that you need to do and you still things aren't going well, and I was like, part of me is like, well, I just have a meltdown, right? Like that's me trying to add humor to it, but
Yep.
the reality is I do, like, sometimes I do have a meltdown,
Hmm.
and I'm like, but that's the best thing. Again,
It's a
this is
good outlet
energy
sometimes.
management. Yep, for
Yeah.
me, I'm like, okay, just like get it out, express myself, express my feelings and my frustration or
Hmm.
whatever. And then
Hmm.
I choose again. Right.
Hmm.
But I think for the most part, we can't go through life like full speed ahead. Like we have to find things that are going to fill us up. And like you said, maybe it's creativity, maybe it's exercise, maybe
Right.
it's, like I said, meditation is another one.
Hmm.
So it's having that toolbox of things that, can fill you up.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing is being mindful and checking in with yourself. Like, how do you feel at the end of that busy day? Or how do you feel, maybe it's a lighter day. Well, do you feel bored? Well, what would
Right.
change that for you? Like, so it's asking yourself those questions. You have to be able to reflect on your day
Yes.
and try different things. So, like, for me personally, next week, I'm going to try. Right now, I usually operate with my email always open. So at work,
Uh,
my email's always open all the time. And
okay.
sometimes I'm like a squirrel and get distracted, right?
Right.
So what I'm trying next week is I'm going to open it first thing in the morning. I'm going to address what's ever in there. I'm going to give myself 30 minutes and then I'm going to close it
Right.
and do whatever else I need to get done in the day. And then after lunch, I'll open it again and give myself another half hour.
See, this is an interesting one that you're talking about too, Amanda, because that's like time management and energy management,
Hmm.
right? Because people don't recognize, especially like email or messages or your phone,
Yeah.
that is a huge energy drain, right? Like,
Hmm.
and even if it's like all positive things, like when you're interacting with people or you're expending the mental energy to like respond to a message or whatever, it takes away from where you're at, right?
Hmm.
So I think that's a great hack. And like I said, there's all kinds of productivity tips that kind of border between the time and energy management for sure.
Yeah, because and I'm going to try it out and see. It could not work for me. I don't know, but I'm going to give myself a week where I try
Yeah,
it out. It could be the best thing ever. I could feel a lot better.
yeah,
Because at the end of the day, when you see that ding or you see that notification, you feel the urge to respond right away. But at
yes,
the end of the day, the person sending it is not looking for you to necessarily respond right away. They're looking for you to respond in a reasonable amount of time, and that's going to vary from industry to industry. But I feel compelled to be like, oh, but if I'm in the middle of something for another client,
right,
well, I looked at this ding. It like I believe it's like 15 or 17 minutes or
yeah,
something. It takes you to get back to the point you were at
yes,
before the ding.
yes,
So that means that 15 minutes that
yeah,
I was distracted actually cost me more than that because now I have to spend all that time getting back into whatever focus task I was at. And probably, it's a little bit different now, but depending on people's at home circumstances, if you have
yeah,
kids and pets running around, there's maybe more distractions than at the office. But,
yeah,
usually there's multiple distractions in a day, but one that I can control
right. Well, this
is
is it.
whether or not my email's open.
Yes, exactly. And I think, well, and like I said, it could be email, it could be, messages, messenger, it could be
Mhm.
social media. I
Turning
have,
off notifications on your
yeah,
apps, holy crap,
exactly. Yes. That
big
was
difference.
a game changer for me. Although there's times where I'll miss things. Full transparency. Well, but and again, like for the most part, for on social media, it's not as important, so I'm okay with it. And even like emails and text messages, like I don't have notifications on my phone.
Mhm.
And for me, I did it initially as like a coping mechanism to deal with anxiety because
Yes.
every time it would go off, I'd be like, okay, okay, right. I gotta like, who's that? What's happening? Right.
What
And so, but I think it can be a great hack for, many different things. Like I said, time and energy management. So,
Yeah, because with those notifications, like those apps' entire
oh,
purpose and base of revenue is how much time you spend on them.
yes.
So they're going to send you notifications about everything they can think of.
Yeah.
So it's not always somebody trying to get a hold of you. And
Right.
spoiler alert for everybody, I know this is going to sound crazy, but if something's super important,
Right.
people will still pick up the phone,
Yes. Yeah.
call you.
Yes,
So
although
like if there's an
I
emergency,
sometimes forget that I can just call a person, just that's so clear. I'm like, I've done this, and I'm like someone will be like, "Did you call?" And I'm like, "No,
yeah. So
forgot
that's
that
the thing.
that's the thing." Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah, because if somebody is trying, if there's an emergency,
Yes. 100%.
They're not going to send you a Facebook message. I hope that they
No. Yeah,
have done
I
that.
think maybe we should just put that out to the world. If there's
Yeah,
an emergency, don't send me a Facebook message. Please just
just
call.
pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe a couple times.
And so few people call now that if somebody calls you, you're going to be like, whoa,
Yeah. What's
what
happening?
is this noise?
I do still have my ringer on my phone. Well,
Oh, really?
right now I don't.
Probably like 4 years. It's just been in silent.
Yeah, right? Probably better that way. Yeah. Love it.
Okay, but because before we get too late on time, we're at like 9 minutes to 8. So
Yeah.
I'll take one more look to see if there's any questions. If anybody does have any that are following us, feel free to throw them in there.
And I
But is
can
there
get back
any?
to you and
Yeah, exactly. So if we miss anything, Angela will be sure to go back and we'll get those questions to her. But what kind of is your parting message about whether it's vision, intentions, energy management that you kind of want to leave with our audience this evening?
I would say, you know what, I encourage people. I mean, again, it's the time of the year where everyone's talking about it, so I think it's a great time to be diving into this and like reflecting on, on what's happened in the last year, what's happened maybe even, in your life until now, and to think about where you want to go. And let yourself dream, let yourself have fun with it, and think about what you'd like this next year to look like, and I love setting goals. I love, breaking them down. I love attaching feelings to the goals. So, if you set something, how are you going to feel when you do achieve it?
Mm,
Right. And then taking action steps, like breaking it down into to smaller chunks. So I encourage people to do that. A lot of people get overwhelmed. The same, like I said earlier, when I used to think about goals, I'd freak out. And now I'll ask my clients to like, okay, what are your, like, write down 3 goals. Don't overthink it. Like, do it right now.
mhm,
Because people always say like, I don't know, I'm not sure, I don't know what to do next. And I'm like, I always call BS on it. Um,
mhm.
I managed not to swear, I think, this whole
I
time.
know. I don't think I've sworn
Sure. Yeah.
in all these conversations, which anyone who knows me knows that is
Yeah.
just like doesn't even make sense
Right.
because
But
Friday is my second favorite F word. So the fact that I
exactly.
haven't just used it like a sailor
Right?
every time I'm on live, I don't know, but I've kept it together.
Exactly, exactly. But yeah, so, I encourage people like right now, literally right now, get a piece of paper and write down your goals. Like whatever pops into your head, don't overthink it. Don't try and figure out how you're going to do it. Just write them down. So, I would say that the other one, again, this is like time management, energy management, goals, whatever. I always encourage people to do a brain dump. So same
Mm,
thing, like blank piece of paper,
love,
write down
love
all
them.
the things that are in your head, because
Hmm.
it clears space for what is most important to you, whether it's vision or intention or, you know, goals. It is a super helpful tool to help you get clear
Yes.
on that. So
I
do it
love brain
now.
dumps. I think they're awesome. Also, just another little hack I have for people. I would find sometimes at the end of my day, and this is pre-COVID, I
Yep.
would I'd be at home or driving home and remember something I meant to do when I was at work,
Uh-huh.
and I used to then be like repeating it to myself because I didn't want to forget, and so then I middle of the night thinking about it. Now what I do is
Yeah.
I literally send an email to myself from my personal email to
Yeah.
my work email. And just in the subject line, I type out whatever it is, call
Yeah.
so and so,
Yeah.
send in
Get it,
whatever.
like you allow, like, get it
Then
out of
it's
your
free.
head.
I
Yeah.
don't have to remember it.
Yeah.
And it's future Amanda's problem, but it's
Exactly.
there, right?
Yeah.
It's there in my email. I know it won't get forgotten again because but I don't have to spend all night
Yes.
trying to, waking myself up in the middle of the night being like, don't forget to do this.
Right.
So that's another great
Love
hack.
it. Good hack.
And I do want to actually give a huge shout out and props to your Heart Magic program. I did take it.
Mhm.
And
Awesome.
this is kind of a manifestation of that.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah. So the
Love it.
BPW ladies could tell you the board that I've been talking about doing
Yeah.
this for a very long time and
Amazing.
just never pulled the trigger. And so when
Yeah.
I did the Heart Magic program, this is kind of the thing I was sketching out and
I love
in
it.
there, like you said, where what is one step you can take today to get you one step closer? Like what's one thing you
Yeah.
could do today to get you one step closer to doing that? And so I really started sketching it out. It really made me focus on rather than all the excuses as to why
Right.
I shouldn't do it or wasn't doing it or whatever.
Yeah.
I really drilled down and be like, well, what do I need to actually do this?
Yes.
And then once COVID hit, I was like, what better time than
Exactly.
right now?
Yes. Amazing.
So,
And I think that's, I think that's the key here. It's like, deciding that you want to do a thing, right?
mhm.
And it's deciding, okay, and then saying it out loud to someone or,
Which is
writing
scary.
it down,
I do
which is
have to
scary.
say, even writing it down, like writing it
Yeah.
down in my little workbook was terrifying
I
because I was
know.
like, oh
I know.
my God.
But it's like that in itself is taking a first step towards a goal, right?
Mhm.
Either saying it out loud or writing it down. And then the next step doesn't have to be super scary. It doesn't mean like you need to quit your job or
Exactly.
you need to like rip apart your house or whatever. It can be like, okay, let's think about what the paint color would look like. Let's think about like what's my vision for my office or my
Mhm.
space or whatever, right? And it doesn't need to be big scary steps. It can be little tiny tiptoes towards your goals.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you for that. I wanted
Okay.
to give you a little shout out on that one. And can you tell the lovely people what you have on the go? So,
Yes, I'm super excited. So, I have just launched a new program called the Wholehearted Year. And so, it is a number of my signature programs. So, Heart Magic is one of them. So, it's an online course, Inbox Zero. So, that's why I also get a little bit jazzed about your word of the year unsubscribe. But so, Inbox Zero program is part of that, and then two workshops that are coming up next week, again as part of that Wholehearted Year program. People can send me a message or they can sign up now, and I'm super excited. So it's there to help people get clear on what they want their year to look like, clear on their goals, if they're an employee, to help them like hash out what tools or what strategy they need to achieve their goals.
and where are all the fun online places people can find you?
So many places. Oh my goodness. Where do I start? Well, get a pen. No, I'm just kidding. So, I post every day on Work of Heart on a Facebook page. So that is like my source of, I try to provide inspiration for people daily. I have a Work of Heart Facebook group that
Mhm.
people are welcome to be part of. Again, it's meant to, be a community of people that build each other up and share ideas and inspiration, and it's more conversational for sure. If people are interested in knowing more about coaching or working with me, I have an Angela Harris Facebook page. I love Instagram. It's my jam. So,
Mhm.
I'm over there at workofheart.me. I also have a website. I don't spend a lot of time over there, but you can send me a message, and an email too. So, and Pinterest,
Awesome.
all the
Oh,
things.
Pinterest too. Wow, you're
Oh,
on all the
oh,
things.
listen, Pinterest, I get very excited about Pinterest, but I shouldn't spend too much time looking at Pinterest, only using it for business. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I don't use it for business. I just do it for fun things.
but it can be fun. It's great for
It is fun.
visualization and for vision
I'm
boarding too.
I'm a very visual person, so I like all that. So, and if anyone has any trouble finding you, they can always send a message to us
Yes.
here at BPW, and we will connect you. So, and a final thing too for people to know that may not be aware is Angela is one of the recipients of our Phenomenal Woman Award. It was
Yeah,
2018, was it?
2018. It's up here on my shelf. Yes.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Phenomenal Woman Award is our major fundraiser every year, and it's recognizing the outstanding contributions that women in the Greater Moncton area are making to both in business and in the community. And so I'm sure after this conversation, if you weren't aware of Angela before, you can clearly see why she was a very deserving recipient. And all the proceeds from that event are used to, we have a bursary program, and all that money goes to women in Greater Moncton, as well as it helps cover our operating costs as a club because we are a nonprofit. So be sure to check it out. More than likely, given the current situation, 2021s will probably be online again as well. But yes, we enjoy and invite everyone to kind of come along and check it out, and you can meet some of our great alumni such as Angela. And so I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for this
Of
awesome
course.
conversation. I hope we were able to give people some tips and tricks and some ideas of, how they can kind of set up this next year for themselves. So
Exactly. Amazing. well, have a good night, Amanda. I hope you get some
Awesome.
like energy downtime.
Yeah, now I have to unwind, right? Whenever I have these
Right.
conversations, I get so like pumped up. So now I have to like decompress so
Exactly.
that eventually I can go
Exactly.
to sleep.
Exactly. Awesome.
Thanks, everybody.